couple weeks ago, it's 4th of July, and at 4th of July, I had all of my nieces and nephews who came to my parents' place, again, which is located on a... Well done. You all get an A, and a gold star, and a thumbs up. On the lake, so all of my nieces and nephews, one of my nieces, her name is Marin, and Marin is 9 years old. And Marin is not just one of my nieces, she's also my goddaughter. And Marin was born developmentally disabled, and so one of her cousins, Heidi, is her same age, but Heidi's, thinking and acting and speaking at a 9-year-old level, and Marin's kind of just stuck, Over Thanksgiving, when I got to see them, Marin was hooked on jingles. She just she could not get enough jingles. She'd walk up to me, she'd say, "Uncle Father Mike, do farmers." And I would have to go, "We are farmers." Exactly. Or she'd say something like, oh my gosh, I'm blanking. Who is that? Vonage, exactly. Or she'd go, "Uncle Father Mike, do McDonald's." And I'd have to go, "Ba-da-ba-ba-ba." And it would not stop. So her parents were like, "Marin, enough with the jingles." And so this 4th of July, she's like, "Uncle Father Mike, tell me a joke." It's like, okay, first it was jingles, now it's jokes. So I said, "Okay, Marin, here's one. A mommy tomato and a baby tomato are walking along a wall, and the baby tomato falls off. What's the mommy tomato say?" Ketchup. So I ask Marin this. I say, "Marin, mommy tomato, baby tomato, walking along a wall. The baby tomato falls off. What's the mommy tomato say?" And Marin looks at me and she says, "No." And I was like, "No, that's really funny. Actually, that's more creative than ketchup." Like, no, she would actually cry out for a child. So it was like she'd say, tell the tomato joke. Or she'd say, "Why did the cookie go to the hospital?" "Because he was feeling crummy." "How did the baby get to the hospital?" "In a wambulance." They went on and on and on. We were talking about things like, what's green and has wheels? Grass. I lied about the wheels. Exactly. How about this? What's brown and sticky? A brown stick. Exactly. What is green, feels like felt, and would hurt you if it fell out of a tree? A pool table. Exactly. You guys know all these things. What is green and invisible? No, this cabbage. Knock, knock. Two. To whom? So it was all these jokes, the whole thing was just, she's like, "Uncle Father Mike, tell me another joke, tell me another joke." And I was thinking about this is incredible, that I love my goddaughter, I love my niece Marin. But if she was born in a different culture, she would be dead right now. Like if she wasn't born in a culture that's influenced by Jesus, she would be dead. We have to realize the difference that Jesus makes in someone's life, the difference that faith makes in someone's life, the difference that Jesus makes in this world. Did you know this? Did you know that until Judeo-Christianity came on the scene, no one believed that we're all created equal? Think about the Declaration of Independence. The Declaration of Independence opens with the words what? "We hold these truths to be self-evident. All human beings are created equal and endowed by the Creator with certain inalienable rights. Life, liberty, pursuit of happiness." No, it says, "We hold these truths to be self-evident. All men are created equal." That is false. That is 100% false. I believe it's true that we're all created equal, but it is not self-evident that we're created equal. If you looked around this room right now, you would say, no, definitely we are not created equal. Like some people are stronger than others. Some people here are faster than others. Some people here are way smarter than others. Some people here are just better at being human beings than others. Some of you, here the reality is this. Some of you are better. Some of you are better at living a human life than others. If you were to just look around us, it is not self-evident that we're created equal. Where does that idea come from? It's the foundation for our entire political system. Where does the idea that all human beings are created equal come from? It comes from the second chapter of the book of Genesis. It comes from the Bible. The reality is this: if this book isn't true, then it is not true that we're all created equal. Because this is the only source for that idea. No culture throughout the entire history of humanity, no religion, no other religion other than Judeo-Christianity, believes that all human beings are equal. No religion in the entire history of humanity believes that we're made in God's image and likeness. And then here come the Jews, and then here come the Christians. And the reality is, the only reason that made a difference in anyone's life is because Christians let what they believed shape how they acted. They let what they believed shape how they treated other people. So you even have stories about this. You have stories about how in the early church, there were times when the plagues would break out, and people would be dying of different diseases. And even family members would take their own family members and who are dying and just throw them out into the street. Because we're not going to take care of our own family members, even though we love them, they're dying. And we don't want to die too. You know what would happen? Christians would leave their homes. They'd walk through the streets with a cart. And they'd load up perfect strangers into their cart just so they could take care of them. Why? Because their faith said that all human beings are made in God's image and likeness, and so that means we have to treat people like that. Because faith has to make a difference in how I live, or else it's worth nothing. It's worth nothing at all. It's actually pretty foolish if you think about it. It's really foolish if you think about, like, people just going out and risking catching the disease themselves if that wasn't true. The big question is this: is that true? Well, how about this? Is it true that all human beings are created equal? Because it's not. If it's just your truth, then maybe it's not mine. Is it true that Jesus makes a difference? Well, here's the question: what is truth? I'm gonna give you, here's a quick answer. Two-word definition of what truth is. Truth is simply this: 2 words. Truth is what is. That's it. So it's what is. So a statement is either true or false. It's true to the degree that it conforms to what is. So if I were to make the statement this: there is a chair on this stage, is that statement true? Yes, because it conforms to reality, right? It conforms to actually what is. Now, if I were to say there are 2 chairs on this stage, is that more true? Yes, because why? Because it conforms more closely to what is. Here's 2 chairs on this stage. So again, a thing is true or false to the degree that it conforms to what is. But still, people will say things like this. People will say things like, well, yeah, Father Mike, that's fine. That's your truth. My truth is different. Have you ever heard anyone say that? That's fine. You believe in God, you believe God exists, you believe in Jesus, you're Catholic. That's fine. That's your truth. My truth is something different. Well, that's okay. Let's look at this. Little grammar lesson. There are 2 kinds of truth. There's such a thing as subjective truth. So here's a couple subjective statements. Grammar 101, going back to 5th grade. Subjective statements are things like this: I like Diet Coke more than Diet Pepsi. I prefer Caribou coffee to Starbucks coffee. I like driving a little bit over the speed limit. All of these things are subjectively true because all these things are about the subject. And what is the subject in all of those statements? Me, I'm the subject. So yes, all of those things are true. You could say, well, no, I prefer Starbucks to whatever other coffee you like. Like, okay, that's your truth. You could say, no, Father Mike, I like obeying the law. Like, okay, fine, that's your truth. I like breaking it, whatever, deal with it. Like, that could be my truth. But all those things are subjective statements. They're subjectively true. If all we had was subjective truth, we could never actually ever communicate with each other. Because y'all have Caribou down here, Caribou coffee? Okay, let's flip it around. You guys have Dunkin' Donuts coffee? Okay, let's do this. You have Starbucks. You've heard of a place called Starbucks? Great. So if you had someone who says, like, no, I like Starbucks. Another person over here is like, well, I like Dunkin'. Well, I like Starbucks. Well, I like Dunkin'. Well, I like Starbucks. How do you resolve this? There's only 3 ways to resolve that kind of conversation. Listen, I like Dunkin'. I don't care. I like Starbucks. Way number 1, I like Starbucks. kick him in the shin. I hit you in the head. That's all you have to do. That's all you can do. If all you have is subjective statements, one way to resolve it, who's stronger? If I can use violence and I can win my argument through violence, that's the only way. If there's only such thing as my truth and your truth, one way to deal with it is either through violence. The second way to deal with it is this. How many people here like Dunkin' Donuts coffee more than Starbucks? Make some noise. How many people here like Starbucks more than Dunkin' Donuts? Okay, you guys, the truth is that Starbucks is better. Well, no, but that's not how it works. That's mob rule. That's mob mentality. So at one point, someone says, you know what we believe? We believe that Jews aren't humans. Yeah! We've got a whole country that says they're not. We can kill them all. We all agreed. You guys, seriously, you can't criticize us because we all agreed. Okay, does that dictate truth? Absolutely not. Is that a good way to solve a problem? Absolutely not. So way number one is violence. Way number two is mob rule. Way number three is this. I like Dunkin'. I like Starbucks. I like Dunkin'. I like Starbucks. Well, see ya. And then you don't communicate at all because we can't resolve it. We have to actually just kind of agree to not talk. Will that get anyone anywhere? Absolutely not. But the good news is this. There's not just subjective statements. There's not just subjective truth. There's actually a thing called objective statements. Those are things like this. You can get a 12-pack of Diet Coke at Super One Foods for $2.99. You can buy a medium coffee at Dunkin' for $1.99. The speed limit of the road outside of this arena is 30 miles an hour. Now, those statements are objective. Why? Because they're about the object. Here's a question. If I didn't know that the speed limit outside the arena was 30 miles an hour, does it change? No. If I didn't know when I was pulled over by the state trooper, that if I were to say, officer, I had no idea it was 55, would he say, oh, that's okay, then it wasn't 55? Is that what he would say? Absolutely not. Because an objective thing, if something's objectively true, it's true whether or not I know it. So if we were in here and it was torrential downpour outside and we didn't know it, would that mean it wasn't raining? No. Something is if it's objectively true, it's true whether or not you know it. What if you didn't want it to rain? Would that stop the rain? Not at all. If something's objectively true, it's true whether or not you know it, whether or not you like it, or whether or not you believe it. It's true whether or not you know it, whether or not you like it, or whether or not you believe it. My belief on that objective thing has absolutely zero influence on whether it's true or whether it's false. So here's an objective statement. Jesus is God. Is that a subjective statement? Jesus is God. Is that a subjective statement? No. It is what you call a objective statement. If that statement is true, is it only true for some? No. If Jesus is God, is he only God for people who believe it? No. If Jesus is God, is that only true for people who like that idea? If Jesus is God, is that only true for people right now living in the United States? If you're living as a Muslim in Turkey, and it's true objectively that Jesus is God, is that also true for a Muslim? Yeah, because the reality is this. If something is true, objectively true, it's true whether or not you know it, whether or not you like it, or whether or not you believe it. What we're dealing with right now at this moment, you're dealing with the question of if Jesus really is God, even if I don't feel it, it doesn't matter. Even if I don't know it, it doesn't matter. Even if I don't like it, it doesn't matter. If he is God, he's God for everybody, even if they don't know it, even if they don't like it, or even if they don't believe it. So the question is this, is Jesus God? No, some people will do this. Some people will play this card. They'll say, listen. I'm not a Christian. I don't believe Jesus is God. I think he was a really holy guy, though. You ever hear anyone say that? I don't believe Jesus is God. He was a prophet, though. He was a really good guy. He did a lot of good things. He taught a lot of great things, but I don't follow him. Well, here's the thing. That's the one thing you can't say about Jesus. Because Jesus claimed to be God. Jesus claimed to be God. So if he's not God, he either is lying, because he's not God and he knows he's not God. Is that the definition of a good person? No. Or he thinks he's God, but he doesn't know he's not God. So basically, he's cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. So this is the deal. Jesus claims to be God. If he's lying about it, he's not God and he knows he's not God, is that a good man or a bad man? He's a bad man. If Jesus is not God, but he doesn't know it, is he a little off or is he way off? He's way off. And that's the thing. One of the things about this is the recognition, the reality that if someone was doing that kind of lie, they would not only be not so good, they would be evil. And if they were that deceived about who they really were, it wouldn't just be kind of like, so if I walked around thinking that I'm the best priest who ever lived, is that true? No. Would I be disconnected from reality or what is? Yes. If I walked around and thought, I'm Pope Francis, would I be slightly more disconnected from reality? If I walked around thinking, I'm Marie Antoinette, would I be even more disconnected from reality? Yes, if I walked around thinking like, honestly, I'm a jelly donut. You guys, you don't understand. I've got creamy filling. Super good. It's like cherry. No, if I really believed that, do you think it'd be very difficult to have a conversation with me? Absolutely. Now, it goes from like arrogance to really being deceived to being totally disconnected from reality. If I thought, what if you met someone walking around saying, I am the maker of the universe. I made everything that exists. I breathe stars. And they really believed it. Would you say, oh my, well, have a good day. Thank you very much. But here comes Jesus, and he walks on the scene, and he basically says this. He's like, hello, I'm the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. I can raise the dead. I can forgive sins. He says all these things, and it's not like people were just like, oh, okay. I mean, if someone walked in this room right now and they said, actually, hey, you guys, I'm God, would you be like, okay? Like, we think that's what they did back in the day. Like, oh yeah, 2,000 years ago, those people were so dumb. They didn't know how to program VCRs. They didn't hear of iPods. They had no idea. They would have believed anybody. So like, Jesus is like, I'm the resurrection and the life. And they're like, all right, that's fine. Like, they would not have done this. If someone came on the scene and said, I am God, what would you need them to do? Prove it, exactly. And that's exactly what Jesus does. In all of his miracles, this is what he is doing. He comes along the guy. The guy has 4 friends. He's paralyzed. They lower him down the ceiling on the mat. Jesus looks at the guy and says, your sins are forgiven. And they say, wait. Who but God can forgive sins? And Jesus knows what they're thinking. Why? Because he's God. And he says, oh, you think it's so hard to forgive sins? Watch this. Be healed. Pick up your mat and go home. Not only can the guy get up and use his legs, I think this is pretty amazing. He knows how to walk. And he learns like in a second. That's pretty impressive. But Jesus is God. Not only that, Jesus goes to the little girl. She's 12 years old. She dies. Jesus takes her by the wrist and just says, Talitha cum, little girl, get up. And it's not like this, like Jesus walked over to the little girl. He's like, starts doing CPR, like, breathe. You never give up anything before in your life. Ugh. Like, he just says, little girl, get up. Or we heard earlier today, Jesus goes to the tomb of his friend Lazarus. Lazarus has been dead for how many days? Yes, at least 3. How many days? 4. 4 days he's been dead. And Jesus doesn't even go into the tomb and like, hey, buddy, hey, wake up. Jesus like does this remote control resurrection deal where he's standing outside the tomb and he just says 3 words. All he has to do, why? Because he is God. He's God. He was able to do this. Lazarus, come out. And the dead guy is now alive. This is insane. Now, in response to this, you know what happens? This is John chapter 11. And it says very clearly in John chapter 11, it says, as a result of this, many of the Jews began to believe in him. But from then on, many others plotted to kill him. Because that's the choice, you guys. If someone gets really excited about something, 1D, Zane, Harry, all of them, Niles. And you might think, okay, I listened to them. That what makes you beautiful. You might go, meh. Someone gets really excited about like, I love the TV show Lost. It's the most amazing thing in the world. And you watch it and you're like, whatever. You can do that when it comes to bands. You can do that when it comes to movies or TV shows. When it comes to Jesus, meh is never the answer. Whatever is not an option. It's either this. It's in John chapter 11. It's either he's God, therefore I believe in him, I'm his, or kill him. Those are our only two options. Either if he is God, he gets me, or I'm his enemy. That's the decision that all of us has to make. It's never meh, it's never whatever. It's either I'm his, and that makes a difference in how I live, or I want nothing to do with him. I'm his enemy. When I was in college, when I was in high school, I met Jesus in a powerful way through the sacrament of reconciliation. So good. And it was the moment when I went to confession that gave my life a new horizon and set it in a decisive direction. I went to college because I wanted to know how to explain my faith, wanted to know how to defend my faith. So I went to a Catholic college. When I went there, I had everything I wanted. I could major in theology. I could go to daily mass. There's a chapel 100 meters from my door. There were like 240 monks on campus, and it was 1 hour away from my girlfriend. I'm like, this is the dream place of the world. Long story short is 4 years later, I graduated with the degree in theology. I could have actually double majored in the one topic because I took so many theology classes. I was going to daily mass every single day. I was a missionary in Central America at a Catholic mission, working at a Catholic high school, teaching religion, and I absolutely hated the Catholic Church. Hated it. I wouldn't even say the word Catholic out loud. I'd say Christian, but I would never even say the word Catholic out loud. The reason is because, well, everyone knows, what the church teaches goes so much against our culture. That there's these kind of issues that church talks about that, the world says that's ridiculous. And so I even asked different priests, I asked nuns, I asked monks, I asked people with PhDs, explain, why does the church teach this? And none of them were willing to give me the reason, give me an explanation of here's why the church teaches this about abortion. Here's why the church teaches this about contraception. Here's why the church teaches this about people with same-sex attraction. So because of that, what happened was I'd be like, I hate the church. God did something incredible when I was down there. And I can't tell you the whole story, but what I realized is I was being formed by somebody. The whole issue of abortion, it's not about whether this is life or not. They put it in the context of, women's rights. In the issue of contraception, it's like, no. Do you have a right to privacy? Do whatever you want with your body. When it comes to same-sex attraction, you have this whole culture right now that says, no. If you're against, say, same-sex marriage, or if you're against acting out in a homosexual way, if you think that that's wrong, you're someone who hates. You're a bigot. You're homophobic. And the thing about this is this. What is bigotry? Bigotry is an irrational bias. But there's nothing irrational about having a reasonable set of beliefs. What's a phobia? A phobia is called an irrational fear. But there's nothing irrational, there's nothing fearful about saying, no, I just disagree here. But here's the thing. When it comes to these three issues, the issue of abortion, which is so hurts so many people, the issue of contraception, which divides the church, the issue of same-sex attraction, which people just don't even understand. It's one of those things where people get to the point where I don't let the church tell me what we actually believe. I let the media tell me what Catholics believe. I let different movies tell me what Catholics believe. And that's what I did. I let other people, other than the church, tell me what the church believes about these things. And so I hated it because I was being formed. But here's the thing. To disagree with someone, my question is this. When did it become true that to disagree with someone was to hate them? I disagree. If someone says that, no, same-sex marriage is the same thing as heterosexual marriage, I say I disagree. And they say, Father Mike, you hate. Like, no, I just disagree. I mean, there was a man, he's a rabbi, a Jewish rabbi, who taught me in undergrad and in seminary. And he and I profoundly disagree on the identity of Jesus. Like, profoundly. On the most core thing that defines my life, we disagree. And I respect this man, and I love this man, and I disagree with this man. There is no fear there. There's no hatred there. We just simply disagree. But what we get is we touch on these things, and there's so much pain there. It seems like we don't know how to talk about it. And the truth is this, I know that there's people here right now. You've been affected by these things. I know this. I know there are people here right now who have either had an abortion, they've encouraged someone to have an abortion. And so to talk about this is just, it's one of those things that your ears get red and your heart starts beating faster. Or even people who, when it comes to same-sex attraction, I know this. You guys, this is not anything new. I know that there are people here who are sons and daughters of God who experience same-sex attraction, and this is a painful thing. And when I start bringing it up, you start thinking like, oh my gosh, what is he going to say? What is he going to say? Or maybe it's not you, but maybe it's a sibling of yours. Maybe it's an uncle of yours. Maybe it's an aunt. Maybe it's someone in your life. What's he going to say about it? You know, there's so much pain. If this is your experience, I know this, you guys. I know there is so much pain, and that you feel so alone. I was talking to this mom recently, and she said that when her son was born 28 years ago, he was born breech. I don't know if you know what that means. That means that he came out of the womb with his head last. And so he got stuck. And when he came out of the womb, he was purple. And the doctors had to resuscitate him, and they did. They saved his life. And he's this great kid. I mean, he's just so smart and so talented, so incredibly gifted. Everyone who's ever met him just loves him. And then when he was 9 years old, when he was 10 years old, his mom would find him, like, crying in his room and asking this question, why didn't God let me die? And his mom was like, what are you talking about? You have an amazing life. And he wouldn't say. When he was 13, 14 years old, again, she'd find him all these times crying all alone, just weeping in his room. And just asking that question, why didn't God just let me die? We all know the story of how I was born purple, but why didn't God just let me die? When he was 17 years old, he's crying, and his mom's looking at him going, what, you're the most, everyone loves you. What are you talking about? There's nothing you don't have. But he had a secret. And he had a pain in his heart that he felt like he couldn't share with anybody. Until about 1.5 years ago, when my little brother drove up to Duluth and was talking to me, and he said, hey, I need to let you know that my whole life I've been gay. And all of a sudden it all made sense. Not any extra stuff, that made sense. That when he was 10, he'd just cry, I'm so alone. I feel like I'm so broken. I can never reveal this to anybody or I'll be hated. When he was 13, when he was 17, when he was 25, feels so alone. I was there outside the hospital room when my little brother was born breech, when he was purple. I remember that. And when he told me, he's like, so, I'm gay. And I'm like, bud, when have I never loved you? When have I not loved you? I'm honestly telling you, I love no one on this planet more than my little brother. My whole life has been almost in a certain sense defined by my love for him. He's 10 years younger than me. My little brother, cared for him ever since I was 12. Because when he was 2, I decided, I'm going to give my life for that kid. There's no one I love more than my little brother. And so he had this question when he said, this is my experience. He said, and he asked the question, and maybe it's a question in some of your hearts. He asked the question, will you accept me? Like, well, dude, you know I love you more than anyone on this earth. You believe that, right? And he's like, absolutely, I know you do. You know I love you still. He's like, I know you love me still. But will you accept me? And here's the big question. I had to ask him, like, Maddie, what does accept you mean? He showed me this video from YouTube, and this video of this guy had made that he had a partner, he had a boyfriend, and he said, when I introduced my boyfriend to my family, they loved him, and they call him, Uncle Shane, and they just embrace him with open arms. They loved the whole thing. But when Shane told his family about us, his dad said if I ever showed up on their doorstep, that he'd meet me at the front door with a shotgun. And so basically, he shows me this video to say, which one are you? I had to say, bud, basically you're asking me, will I accept everything you do or hate you? That's a false choice. That's not a real decision. That's not a real relationship. Question, how many relationships in your life are like that? Either you have to accept everything someone does or you hate them. 0 relationships. No relationship is actually like that. If you really love someone, that means you actually care about the decisions they make. If you really love someone, that means you might not get in their way, you might not stop them, but you for darn sure care whether they're doing something that gives them more love or something that gives them less love. So I was like, bud, here's the reality. This one way, there's this second way, but here's the thing. Jesus shows me, and my little brother knows Christ. Jesus shows us all a third way. Now, this third way is the way that the Catholic Church steers its ship. And the third way is the way that all of us, there is not room in the Catholic Church for bullying. There's not room in the Catholic Church for hatred. There's not room in the Catholic Church for name calling. There's not room in the Catholic Church for any of those things. You know, here's the truth. The truth of the matter is this. If we believe that every human being is created in God's image and likeness, is deserving of love, made from love, made for love, and made by love, that means that we may never, ever, ever treat someone differently because of their sins, because of their actions, because of their desires, because of their inclinations. We may never do this. Because I will say this, and I told my little brother this, and he knows that he wants to believe it. There is no safer place on the planet than in the Catholic Church for someone who struggles with same-sex attraction. There's no safer place in this world for someone who struggles with same-sex attraction than in the Catholic Church. Why is that? Because right now, our culture says, oh, no, don't bully someone. And we Catholics say, yeah, exactly. We've been saying this for 2,000 freaking years. Why? The culture doesn't know why. Because it hurts people's feelings. We know why. Because you know why? Because every person is made in God's image and likeness and deserves our 100% love. That's why there's no safer place on this planet than the Catholic Church, because even if the culture changes, maybe someone comes to power that says, no, kill gays or torture gays. If someone does that, you know what the Catholic Church will say? No, we're on their side. Why? Because we're on the side of human beings made in God's image and likeness. There is no safer place for anyone than in the Catholic Church. I don't care your past. I don't care about your present. I don't care about your struggles. I mean, I do. That doesn't define you. It does not define you. Where the Catholic Church stands is in the third way. And that third way is everyone belongs. I can't do everything I want to do, but this is where I belong. You know, it's funny. This little quick story before we wrap it up. This third way, I was talking to one of my cousins about it, and my cousin actually, he was roommates with my little brother for a couple years in college, and he's really outspoken. He's from the brassy side of the family, and that's not my side. And he says, we're talking about this third way, reality is the church tells all of us that some of the stuff we want, we can't do. So, I want to lie. And I'm like, well, church says don't lie. I want to do X, Y. My cousin, he's like, you know what? He's like, I want to have sex with as many women as possible and masturbate all day, and the church tells me I can't do that. I'm like, your mom is right across the table from us right now. Honestly, I'm not kidding. It was his whole family. It was his dad, his little brother, his mom. I'm like, there's private conversation, there's public conversation. But the reality is this, that if I believe the truth that Jesus is God, and I believe the truth that he founded a church, and that church is the Catholic Church, here's what it means. It means then Jesus, if he's God, no matter what I want to do, he gets to tell me what I can do. Even if I feel like picking on someone, Jesus says, no, you do not. If I feel like being rude to someone, Jesus says, no. Because if the objective truth is Jesus is God, that means it's true whether I know it, like it, or believe it. So we all have a decision right now. The decision is this. It's objectively true that Jesus is God. Is that subjectively true for you? It's true, objectively. Jesus is Lord. Question, is he my Lord? It's objectively true that the Catholic Church was founded by God himself and will lead us into all truth, guided by the Holy Spirit. The question is this: is the Catholic Church my teacher? it is objectively true that our faith is the truth. The question is this: is the faith my faith? Am I willing to stand on that? Right now, today, this afternoon, not later, not next week, right now. If it is true, objectively, that Jesus is God, am I willing to stand on that? Am I willing to let Jesus be my God? Am I willing to let Jesus be my Lord? Am I willing to stand on this truth that Jesus is Lord? It is objectively true. Is it subjectively true in your life right now? And if it is, are you willing to stand on that?